Hi guys, I'm just going to go over the brain model with you guys. Hopefully this helps you for your final. I'm going to go over table 4. I'm going to start with gyrus. Gyrus is just these upper portions of the brain. So I think of them as mountains. These portions. And then sulcus is just going to be the portions that are going to be kind of embedded into the brain. So these ones. So I think of that as a valley. So the mountain is going to be the gyrus and the valley is going to be the sulcus. Gray matter. Gray matter on the brain is going to be found on the surface of the brain, and the white matter is going to be found deep in the brain, but deeper in the brain is going to be more gray matter, which is going to be your cerebral nuclei, which is not found in this model. So your longitudinal fissure is going to be straight down the middle. Let's say you have another brain here. It's going to be just straight down the middle. The line straight down the middle. Corpus cerebral hemisphere. This is one of the cerebral hemispheres. Corpus callosum is going to be this white matter. So do you remember how I was saying that it's deep in the brain? That's part of your white matter. Frontal lobe is just going to be this lobe this interior lobe right here, frontal lobe. And this lobe is just going to allow you to think and make judgments. Your precentral gyrus, how I find the precentral gyrus, I find the central sulcus first. So the central sulcus is going to be this one right here. So right in anterior of the central sulcus is going to be your precentral gyrus. Posterior of the central sulcus is going to be your postcentral gyrus. And this part is also your parietal lobe. So parietal lobe, frontal, parietal. Your parietal occipital sulcus is going to be found right here. So it's going to separate the occipital lobe, and the parietal lobe. So this is the occipital lobe. Lateral sulcus is going to separate the temporal lobe, this is the temporal lobe, from all the other lobes. And this is your lateral sulcus. Lateral sulcus. Your fornix is it's another white matter, and it's going to be found in this section of the brain. So it's going to be this one right here. That's your fornix. And above the fornix and below the corpus callosum is going to be your septum pellucidum. So septum pellucidum right here. Fornix, septum pellucidum, corpus callosum. Cerebral nuclei is not found in this model, so we're gonna skip that. And your lateral ventricle, we have another model where you can see that more clearly. But ventricles are just a space, like a place where the cerebrospinal fluid will be located at. So if you want to find this lateral ventricle in this model, it will be the space behind the septum pellucidum. So if, let's say I put my pen through the septum pellucidum, that would be where the lateral ventricles are at. The lateral ventricle. So that's the end of table 4. Let's head on over to table 5, your diencephalon. So I'm gonna start off with your thalamus, and the way I find the thalamus is just the thalamus has a feature that is seen very clearly, and it's called your intrathalamic adhesion, which is going to be this brownish dot right there, that brownish dot, and then this part is your thalamus. So interthalamic adhesion, thalamus. Right above your thalamus is going to be your epithalamus. So how I study, I would just break things down. Epi means above, so above thalamus. And this is going to be your epithalamus. And this pink structure right here, that's going to be your pineal gland. And that's located also in your epithalamus. So your pineal gland is located within the epithalamus. Below the thalamus, hypo below, it's going to be your hypothalamus right here. Your hypothalamus is going to contain a infundibulum, which is going to be it's just going to hold the pituitary gland. This big thing right there, that's your pituitary gland. So the stalk, what holds it, that's your infundibulum. So that little stalk, that's your infundibulum. Your mammillary body is just going to be found by your infundibulum right here. Sorry, right there. So right here, if you want to look at it for this view, right there. And that's part of your hypothalamus. Your optic chiasm is going to be your crossing. So it crosses. You can't see it too well because of the pituitary gland, but it crosses. It crosses and it's going to extend to the optic nerves. So if I would have to say, that's your optic chiasm right there. And then your optic tracts are going to be, so number 30 is your optic nerve, optic chiasm, and behind your optic nerve, so 30, behind your optic nerve is going to be your optic tract right there. It's very hard to see right there. Your third ventricle is just gonna be found. It's also, this is another one of your ventricles, so it's gonna be found above the epithalamus and below the fornix, right here. So if I were to push my pen through, there would be a space right there holding cerebrospinal fluid. And that is your third ventricle. Okay, that was it for table 5. Let's go into table 6, which is your brain stem. Your midbrain is going to be C. So your midbrain's here. Midbrain. Your corpora quadrigemina of your midbrain is going to be, this is a part of the corpora quadrigemina. It's also another noticeable thing that it's by your pineal gland. So if you have another brain and the other half of the structure, all of it would be your corpora quadrigemina. Half of it on the superior side would be your superior colliculi, and below would be your inferior colliculi. So let me repeat that again. Superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. And your pons is going to be D, this big structure right here, your pons. And right below your pons is going to be your medulla oblongata. Between your midbrain and by your superior colliculi and inferior colliculi is going to be your cerebral aqueduct, which is going to be found here. It's that space. That is also another one of your ventricles where it's going to hold your cerebrospinal fluid. And your fourth ventricle is just going to be located below, between the pons and the cerebellum. So this is your fourth ventricle. And that is the end of table 6. Table 7 is talking about the cerebellum. This part is your cerebellum. So the vermis is going to be this structure. It's kind of a warm look-alike structure when you mix it with the other cerebellum. And this is one of your cerebellar hemisphere. And this white structure, it kind of looks like a tree. This is called your arbor vitae, tree of life. So that's your arbor vitae. That is, we're done with table 7. And that's all for this. That's all for this video. We'll talk about the cranial nerves next. Okay, thank you.